Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Thursday, July 24th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce on the website at wh.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 20 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. You can also go to your app store and type in the words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. If you're back at the whyagain.org page, you can download a whole host of audio files from there that have been curated out of the archives from the past 14 plus years. And some of them are people who've been stepped through the worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. And we hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we would be grateful if you would choose to do that. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, and or you can email Jeanie at jeanie at whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment from you through an email, we'll address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you notification about what day and time that occurred, so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. And the other option is for you to join us live. You can go onto your phone and call one of the numbers that Zoom promotes. And once you call the number for Zoom, you can just enter our meeting ID number and you can join us live. You can either listen in, or you can speak up and participate, or you can open up a browser window and then enter the meeting ID number of 853-2357-4173, and then you can use your video, or you can type in the chat room, or you can speak to us voice to voice. Again, the meeting ID number for these first hours of Mindshifter Radio from 11 to noon Central Time, the meeting ID is 853-2357-4173. And we are always grateful whenever anybody chooses to join us through that medium and share with us, because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be of service, And that is just infinitely easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. And so every little bit of feedback you choose to give us is greatly appreciated. I am just full of all kinds of busy thoughts today. I've had uh, a busy morning personally, and I've had a session, and some of the powerful thoughts buzzing around and lead me to want to go back to the way of mastery and the first lesson at the bottom of the 5th page. And there's a principle at the core of this work which helps explain why so few people tune into the internet show, or so few people tune into the support groups, or so few people who are exposed to the reality management worksheet. And maybe even if they do one or two of them and they get a fabulous result, so few people actually keep doing the work, whatever work that fits for them. And one of the reasons for that, I believe, is contained right here in this principle at the bottom of page 5 in the Way of Mastery, the Big Blue Book, Way of Mastery. And it says, you will discover that the pathway we're talking about, the pathway of awakening, is not a pathway of avoidance, but a pathway of truthfulness. It is not a pathway of accomplishment and pride. That means this is the opposite of every pathway that our culture offers. At least according to my understanding, everything about our culture, everything about our pathway, everything about our what quote Western civilization, close quotes, is all about accomplishment and pride. It's all about accomplishment and accumulation. So what they're saying right here in the very first lesson, 5 pages into Way of Mastery, is either get off the ride right now or buckle up, because we're going to go against basically everything you've been taught in your culture. And the full reading here says, this is not a pathway of accomplishment or pride, but a pathway of releasing from the consciousness, your awareness, releasing every hope and every wish to be special, or to see yourself as having made progress, so that you can pound the fist upon your chest and spread your tail feathers and think, oh, isn't it wonderful? Now God will let me into heaven. Now God will say, oh my gosh, you're so good. I can't wait to have you here. There's nothing in this pathway about earning anything. There's nothing in this pathway about being special at any level. And that, to my mind, helps account for why there are so few people actively engaging in this pathway and others like it day in and day out. That's a big one. That's a big piece. Another big piece that came up in a session I just had was this the idea of how we self-abuse. And whatever was happening in the session, we started talking about the movies written by they were done on a book that was written by Brown, whatever his name was, and it was all about theories, conspiracy theories about Jesus and his bloodline, and it's stymieing me right now. So I'm trying to come up with the title. People will know them. So Dan Brown's books uh, about conspiracy theories and angels and demons and Secret of Secrets, The Da Vinci Code, these books. And in one of those movies, one of the characters who was chasing after the protagonist throughout the movie was a person who would do self-harm on a daily basis, multiple times a day, because the teaching that he aspired to said we're born as a sinner and we're born unworthy. And I remember one scene where he would, he'd be running around through the city and very, you know, reasonably young and athletic, and but then he takes his pants off and he's got a, a torture device wrapped around his upper thigh or his lower thigh right above the knee, where there are spikes that he's tightening down to cause pain and to puncture his flesh. And then he takes a cat of nine tails and takes his shirt off and starts beating himself with this whip that's got, you know, metal pieces on the end to inflict more damage. And when I watch a movie like that, because my history with the Catholic Church and then the evolution of learning about what was the origin of the doctrine that says that you have original sin and you're damaged and broken from birth, etc. My response to all of that has been, this is silliness. And this is really unpleasant to watch. I don't have any desire to watch somebody who is doing self-mutilation or whatever. And so I have, my own emotional issues around that, and I've done some work on them, and I'll continue to do work on them. And yet, the bottom line is, when I was having this discussion today, and that movie came up, and the idea of, shame and self-ridicule and the internal verbal abuse that most of us live with, I had this kind of a flash of insight in the middle of the session that our each of us individually, when we have a negative thought about ourselves or somebody else, not only can we instantly know that it's a lie or based on a falsehood and that it's an old tape playing from the past and that if I act from it, I'm going to make my life situation worse, but I can wake up and realize, oh my gosh, this is perhaps even more abusive than whipping myself on the back with these little, cuts that are going to heal up and then basically become a non-issue. But this ongoing internal dialogue of self-loathing and personal abuse, it doesn't heal up. It doesn't go away over time. It gets more entrenched. It's more insidious because it's internal, and for the most part, other people don't see us doing it to ourselves. And yet, the the lack of consistent logic or the lack of a consistent logical structure that's built on solid premises that are provable just amazes me. The idea that we're tolerating all of this internal negative dialogue. We're even promoting it in some of our religious structures. And yet most people wouldn't even think of tolerating watching somebody whip themselves right in front of them with a cat o' nine tails. A cat o' nine tails, again, is a kind of a whip where at the end of the whip, it's not just the leather thongs, there's actually shards of glass or metal or something to inflict more damage. Well, most of us today, if we saw somebody actively inflicting physical pain on themselves, we would intervene. Sometimes very aggressively. We'd call 911. We'd, get our friends together and gang tackle the person to keep them from hurting themselves. And yet we think nothing of ignoring or even buying into the negative self-judgments that are perhaps many thousands of times more destructive than the physical pain that some people inflict on themselves. And at the root of it, I don't know what the whole deep root is. Although I did have an interaction this morning with someone where they said, well, you know what scares me is AI. And because I'm, a psychologist and been doing this work for over 51 years, it's hard to turn it off. So when somebody's standing in front of me and they say, well, you know what scares me is, and it wasn't just a passing comment, I'm having a conversation with this person, you might guess what comes out of my mouth next is, well, AI isn't causing your fear. Nothing causes your fear but your own internal dynamic. And so at the root of this misunderstanding or brainwashing is the idea that we are victims of our emotions and we are victims of the flow of life. And boy, if we're a victim of something, we want to get out of it. We want to be rescued. We want to be protected. We want to be saved. But then if you're thinking about it, why would somebody save me if I'm not important, if I'm not special, if I haven't done enough for them, if I haven't earned it? So that's where this whole cultural thing comes in of this wild goose chase that we get set out upon to try and be something that's valuable and achieve something that someone would say is worthy, and then maybe they will deem us of being worthy of redemption or whatever. So the whole system feeds upon itself to keep us locked into the idea that we're victims and that we are not inherently valuable. And then take a look. What do you have in your life? Just look around your life. Look at the culture you're living in. Look at the quest. Look at the religions fighting each other. Look at the politicians fighting each other. The one identified group attacking or labeling another identified group. And it's all based on these artificial, arbitrary delineations of difference that they're just made up. A person is a person is a person. A space on this globe is just like any other space on this globe. It isn't part of Iowa or part of Indiana, or it's the globe. It's the planet. I forget, the one person was telling a story. It's a lot like Guy Finley stories, but it wasn't a Guy Finley story. It might have been an Anthony DeMello story where somebody was going from one country that was a neighboring country to the one he was from. And he was he'd been in prison in this other country and he'd been released. And so they were driving him across the border. And they were saying to him, "Oh, we've crossed over and we're back in your, native country of Poland or whatever it is." And he's, "Oh my God, this is so wonderful. The trees, the air just smells better here, and the trees are so much more beautiful here. And thank God my homeland." He actually gets out of the car and kisses the ground. 10 minutes later, they're still driving, and here comes a sign: "You're about to enter Poland." What's going on there?
That's good.
What's going on there? What are we doing? Right? These are artificial, arbitrary delineations of differences. We just made it all up. And then we use it to create our suffering. Go ahead.
Sorry, Dr. Tim. I unmuted and forgot I did. I had a question. And then you went on with the DeMello story, which is great. Funny. Going back to original sin, how is that? I mean, where isn't that the same thing as the shadow that Jung is talking about?
No.
Okay.
Not even close.
All right. Shoot.
No, it is not the same by any. So as best I understand it from the readings that I've been introduced to and the history unfoldings, etc. Human beings who had difficulty explaining their lack of impulse control and the fact that they kept doing things that even they would acknowledge are not so useful or loving.
Right.
Human beings, in an effort to understand that, created the concept of original sin.
Mm-hmm.
And it means you're damaged, you're broken, you're unlovable, you were born on the wrong side of the tracks. That means you're not worthy, etc.
Mm. Right.
And if you just let that sink in, this is human beings trying to make sense of their world and coming up with an explanation that is otherworldly, right? Like they're pretending that they've got access to a mind that's greater than their own. And they're pretending that they know what that greater mind than theirs would think or believe.
Very good.
It's kind of like kids playing in the sandbox, except it's every human being everywhere on the
Mm.
planet at any age.
Well, that's an interpretation of the shadow, though. That's just the Roman Catholic way of interpreting the shadow. I still don't see why they
Oh,
are so
okay. But
different.
right, that's just because of the definitions, right? And you can define them in a way that makes them similar,
Mm-hmm.
or you can define them in a way that makes them fundamentally different. So on the one hand, the way I see it is that people are being told that they've got access to a higher level of wisdom than the human wisdom,
Mm.
and that they've got access to God and what God thinks and what she's been busy doing lately and what she wants them to do and all that good stuff. And this is that idea of original sin, that somebody's pretending that as they sit here in a human body with a human mind, that they can get access to what the greater mind that gave rise to everything, what it thinks and believes. Do you follow me?
I do.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the idea behind original sin. That these human beings with a human mind are pretending that they've got access to a higher, greater wisdom, and they're pretending they know what that is, and they're pretending that one of those things that's known by the higher wisdom is that humans are evil and damaged and broken from their natural essence. That's the idea of original sin. Now, to simplify it, they make up a story about a man and a woman in a garden and some fruit and a snake. But the essence of it is humans pretending that they're not human or that they've got access to godlike wisdom and that they know what God's wisdom is. And here's this label, here's this definitive truth that says human beings are damaged and flawed and broken by their very nature.
So Jung wouldn't say we're damaged. He would just
Absolutely
say
not.
there's a huge spectrum.
Keep going. He wouldn't say we're damaged. I said absolutely not.
Yeah. Oh, he would say that we are huge. Our spirit spans a spectrum that we're not entirely conscious of. And we are to bring the shadow side into consciousness to make ourselves whole, although we're already whole, but we are now aware so that we can experience ourselves as whole. I'm getting off where I really care about a definition, but
Well,
it seems.
The Jungian thing is much more simple than that, right?
Mm,
The
okay.
Jungian thing about the shadow work is much more simple than that. It's just basically this. Look, if it's true about you and you won't admit it, you can't change it.
Okay, that's good.
If it's true about you, and there's a big if in there, we're not saying,
Hmm.
oh, this is true about you. We know the truth about you. We're just saying, here's the young shadow thing in a simplified format that's highly functional. If there is a truth about you that you refuse to acknowledge, you can't work with it or change it. That's the young, and essentially that's all there is to the young shadow work. Anything that you keep in the shadow or you turn your light of awareness away from, you can't work with.
Hmm. So he doesn't say what all that is. He doesn't go there. he just says if you project something onto someone else that it's less than loving and wonderful, then
You
you're
can't change
dealing
it.
with your shadow. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
can't change it until, okay. All right.
Let's say there's a person who has a decision, a definition in their mind that says it's bad and horribly wrong for someone to to speak from a place of rage or anger.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say someone has that belief. It's bad, it's wrong, it's horribly destructive for someone to speak and have the energy of anger in their voice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that person is living their life and their voice tone goes up and their volume goes up and their jaw gets clenched as they're speaking, and someone near them says, "Gee, you seem angry," what do you think their response is going to be?
It depends. They
No,
might
no,
say,
no, no,
I'm
no,
not
no. I'm not angry. It not depends on
right.
anything. They're going to deny that they're angry. That's their shadow work. They have just turned away from the obvious facts that other people around them can see, and they've created their own shadow work right there.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep it that simple. Your shadow work is just that. Are you willing to continually learn about yourself? Are you willing to integrate input from various outside sources? Are you willing to see the absolute capital T truth about yourself wide open all day long?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, then that is your shadow work.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can see why the original sin idea, I mean, I shouldn't put it that way. I should say I am deeply influenced by the original sin idea to the point where I immediately thought that that's what the shadow is, all the ugly, dark stuff.
Yeah, not it.
Okay.
Tim?
Hoping that this has cleared a little up for you, at least in terms of this particular thought process.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say with that clarity, with that, no qualifications, that's not it. Because we're not talking about ultimate truths. We're just talking about words that Jung spoke and the meanings that he gave us for it, right? It's not some ancient wisdom that we have to unravel. It's just somebody who was a human being in the past 100 or so years who did some writing. And you can read his
Mm-hmm.
writing. And here's what he was talking about. It's not the same as original sin or anything like it. Someone else was trying to speak up. Who's that?
Yes, Tim, this is Celinda. I'm listening to the conversation. And I wanted to ask you, what about a person who not only, maybe they admit that they're angry, but they justify or excuse it? Wouldn't that be shadow also?
Yes.
A form of denial?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Based on our understanding of things, based on our current understanding of how I'm the one creating and experiencing my emotions, yes. Denial of that process would be the shadow.
Okay, cool. That's what I was wondering. Thank you.
And
Enjoying the
it's
conversation.
and it's probably more accurate to say, rather than to say that's the shadow, it's not the shadow. The shadow isn't a thing, right? It would probably be more
Okay.
accurate to say that's what Jung was referring to when he talked about your shadow work.
Okay.
It's
Gotcha.
anything about myself and actuality of my experience or the truth of myself that I do not want to admit. That is how I create my own shadow work. I literally turn the light of my awareness away from it, and that is left in the shadow.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
You're most welcome and deserving. So, I don't know exactly where we are or got off track or if we're right on track. I was the thread that I remember before Susan graciously gave us some thoughts was the idea that this negative self-talk we do is every bit as disruptive and damaging as it would be to take our shirts off and whip ourselves with a cat o' nine tails and strip flesh from our bones. And yet we don't treat it that way. And yet we're living in a culture that just ho hum, oh yeah, yeah, there's somebody over in the corner flogging themselves and they're causing quite a pool of blood to gather over there. We'll have to get janitorial over here to clean that up later. But yeah, that's them. It's bizarre to me that we allow such intense negative emotional abuse to happen inside a person's mind or between people, and we justify it. We rationalize it. It's mind-boggling to me. And the essence of all of our work here is to try and shine a light on that process and then to try and introduce people to the tools that we have found or people like us have found that are beneficial in light of what we've discovered.
So, Dr. Tim, you never bought into that original sin idea, even when you were younger and being indoctrinated?
I absolutely bought into it when I was younger. I have no
Oh,
idea
okay.
why you're saying I didn't. Yes, I did all the way up through college. I was in
Oh,
college, going to mass, praying like to beat the band, reading the Bible, trying to make sense of it. Yeah, yeah, I was trying to make sense of my world based on that set of tools and templates, and it wasn't until several critical events happened in my senior year of college at a Catholic, college that I woke up and realized, oh wow, this isn't actual. This is all made up.
mm.
This isn't consistent. This doesn't produce good results. This leads to more self-loathing and devastation and war.
Is that when were you interested in psychology by then? I mean, what woke you up?
Well, a big part of it was that I was in college and I was in a 4-year liberal arts college, and they had this program that was called the Core Curriculum, and it was sponsored by Eli Lilly. They had a fabulous grant that allowed them to keep the college running at millions of dollars, and but that was because they proposed this rather unique model for rolling all of the required courses in a 4-year degree into one program that they called the core program. And then it left more flexibility for people to take electives. And in that core program, we got introduced to theories of mathematics, theories of philosophy, theories of sociology, theories about various religions. And that one was a big one, the theories about
Mm,
various religions, because prior to that, in all of my college, or in all of my Catholic education, grade school, high school, and college, it was not permitted to talk about or study or understand other people who had a different religion, other than to say, those poor people are all going to hell.
right, that's it.
It was it. That was the only thing we were allowed to know or study or, that we were taught. And so now here I get to college and all of a sudden they're having me read magnificent books about phenomenal events in life over time and that gave rise to this social movement or that religion and I'm just like, it just blew the lid off for me.
Mm,
To read Siddhartha, to read Talhar de Chardin, to read Georgiev and these philosophers wrestling with life, to to
mm,
to watch the play Waiting for Godot and
mm-hmm.
and to be puzzling with these things, to literally have a questioning brought into my life at a deeper level than it had ever been before. That's what broke me open. That and the fact that I had several friends who would send me book titles and were reading spiritually oriented things. And so by the time I was a year or so out of college, I was I had awakened from the trance, so to speak, the trance of the indoctrination that I had been raised with
Yeah.
from first language on.
So you must have met some resistance, or were your family pretty free and easy about all that change in you?
No, no, we will not use the words free and easy.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what kind of family you came up in, but
Well, I came up in an atheist family, so yeah, I got into a cult. My family were atheists, and they were horrified that I thought they were all going to go to hell but me because I had the truth. And then I went to college and got deprogrammed from this wonderful secular Jewish professor who helped me extricate myself from this cult. And so my family were very happy to get me back to my pagan self, my heathen self. Yeah. I feel for you if you came out of there with all these revelations and ran into trouble when you got home. That mustn't have been so good.
it was it was very different.
Mm.
It wasn't a smooth and easy transition thing, and but I did have a lovely family, and so there wasn't any absolutely brutal wailing and gnashing of teeth. There was just a lot of
Good.
confusion and, um, I'll say aspersions. I don't know why that word's coming to me, but just life, right? It was unfolding, and I had a really
Mm.
good family, and they were far more tolerant than some families would be. But there are probably some of them still in the body who actively pray for my salvation.
I could
Probably
use
some of
that
them
too.
who actively pray that I will wake up and see the error of my ways.
Let them do it. Can't hurt. Mm.
And
All
yet,
right.
and yet, so this comes to me to say, like Tim, you talk about this internet show that you're doing and the focus being for practical tools to improve the quality of your life. And then you get on and you say this, here's a reading from the Way of Mastery in the first lesson, and give up all desire to be special or
Right.
achieve anything, and, and then talk about the Da Vinci Code movies and the self-flagellation. And so what is it? How do you bring this back to
Mhm.
ground zero in something practical?
Mm.
And for me, the distilled version, the tincture of this teaching is if you have a negative thought about yourself or somebody else, or a negative emotion active in your mind, you can instantly know three things. It's a lie or based in a falsehood. It's an old tape playing. It's not about the present moment situation. What your mind is telling you about what you're upset about is not accurate. And the third thing you can instantly know is if you sit and spin thinking about this, if you speak or act from it, it's just going to make your life situation worse, not better. So the practical, boiling this down to this, distilling this into its most pure form of practicality is I'm going to go cold turkey on my negative self-talk, on my negativity,
Mm.
on my upset, on my shame, fear, pain, hurt, guilt, confusion. I'm going to stop validating them, justifying them, pouring my mind energy into them, and pretending they come at me from something else, from something
Mm.
outside of me.
You said something earlier on about people who are not using the tools or on the radio show, and you connected it with something about not being special. Can you reconnect that? I don't follow
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, it's very simple. I'm just saying that, every once in a while, somebody will stumble across this work and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, what a blessing! Oh, this is so wonderful, and this is changing my life. And all this wonderful, great, happy, joyful stuff." Bliss out. How come there's only 6 people on this group? Why
Right.
doesn't everybody know how wonderful this teaching is, right? Why isn't everybody minimizing the negative emotions in their lives the way Dr. Tim is talking about doing it? And the
Okay.
reason we don't have more of that is because this is a process, a set of tools, a set of understandings built on the assumption that this is the opposite of the culture you were raised in. It's the opposite of a pathway of accomplishment and pride.
Mm.
This is a pathway of erasing and releasing from your consciousness every hope and every wish of being special or earning your way into heaven or getting it right. Well, nobody wants that. People want answers. People want quick, fast answers. People want a magic pill or a magic wand. And how will my giving up any sense of my being special lead me to this happy bliss state that all these religions are telling me I'll get after I die or whatever? It isn't easy to see. It is not a simple linear line. I'll give you that much.
I think I'm on
Now,
the show
Tim,
because I want to be special.
All right. 2 of you were speaking at the same time.
Okay, let the other person speak. I've had a lot of speaking time. I'll mute.
now, Tim, now, Tim, is it true that nobody wants to know this? Because we have 6 people on our show.
Okay, stickler. Okay, previous unrecovered grade school teacher. You're right. I misspoke.
I'm poking some fun because I do that too, and it's embarrassing to get caught at it, but it's pretty funny.
What you mean to say is that you're well practiced at generating embarrassment when that happens?
Yes, there you go.
It is not embarrassing, but you can generate embarrassment?
Yes, I can. Oops. So you can tell I'm recovering, right?
Yeah. Yeah, or yet to begin a recovery. Who knows? I'm not taking your inventory for you.
Thank you, sir. But I had to say that because there are so many times when I've caught myself saying always and never and nobody and like so I thought I would just join in.
Yeah, it is true. There are some people who do this, and yet it's probably never going to be wildly popular. There's probably not going to be a Disney World with rides titled the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet.
Susan, thank you so much for bringing up the Adam and Eve story too, because it's really strange. I broke free of all of, not all, obviously, of many of the belief systems of my youth, and from the time I was 4 or more, little by little, because for some reason, I would ask myself questions. I was afraid to ask anybody else questions, but I'd ask myself questions. And I just happened to go through all of the phases of Christian perspective. And when I finally came out of that and all of the religions, it was actually through that process of going through all of these different aspects of Christianity and then Eckankar and whatever else to realize it's got to be an internal job for me. I'm just not going to join a religion anymore, even though according to the Episcopal Church, unless I actually do some profound self-excommunication, I'm still an Episcopalian, but I don't know. I guess that's okay. I just thought that was interesting, and it was actually in a military context where it was my reading the Bible over and over and over. And what Yeshua said, what Jesus was saying in the Greek translation of the Bible was so blatantly out of line with what I was hearing in chapel and in my various religious backgrounds that I just walked away from it. And yet I didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And it was really interesting about the Adam and Eve story. Now when I listen to the Adam and Eve story, I keep linking it to the prodigal son and story of the prodigal, what I'd call the prodigal father, who waited patiently at home for the son, the child, the mother it could be too, and just realize that, we're all little spiritual, not all of us, let me scratch that. We're in various stages of our soul development, no differently than we're here in the physical on a different scale in various stages of our intellectual, emotional, spiritual development. So it's just a little kindergarten story, and we might as well go over to the table and eat our cookies and milk, like in the Way of Mastery, and just enjoy the story and then do our work so that we learn what is behind that story. Where is the journey going to take us? The journey without beginning and without an end. It's circular. I love it. Spiral, actually. And that's just for right now. I'm so appreciating being on the show and in the support group and wherever the truth comes from, my little truth for the moment. So appreciate you all, and that's it.
Okay, well, thank you for that contribution. And my job, I've given myself the job of just bringing things back from those big global universal multi-universe positions to this moment. What am I doing in this moment that's generating a fear, a tightness, a tension, a shame, a guilt, a judgment? And if I become aware of that and what I'm doing to create it, then I have choice. I might, and I know people, I have daily interactions with people who continue to choose to generate bitterness and fear and resentment. And yet, if I become aware of how I'm creating my bitterness, fear, and resentment, now I've got a choice. And
thank you for
thank you for what?
The metaphor of the flogging. I would have never thought of it in that way. And to think that centuries ago, people watched people flog people and say, oh, they're just being super, super spiritual.
Yeah, there's a plenty of absolutely bizarre history. We don't have to go very far to see how unhealthy, how unloving much of our history has been.
And to bless ourselves for where we are today in reference to that. How exciting to go ahead and go forward, standing on the shoulders of our past, personal and collective.
And I'm just encouraging us to be doing that moment to moment, day in and day out, without imagining some big grand scheme, just staying focused in the present moment on, oh, I'm generating X, Y, or Z, tightness or tension or judgment. Let me choose again just to see how things pan out differently.
I love that. It's so simple.
That's my hope, that it's simple enough that it is doable.
It is.
Well, any other thoughts or comments from you so far today? Got
No, thank you.
I don't know that other people have been tuning into it, but because they never know who listens to this first hour and who listens to the second hour. But within the past few days, Michael has started to talk about a new project and using AI to create a new website or a new web presence that's going to be eternal in his words, and it's going to have multiple layers. And, he imagines that he invested in this AI tool a year or two ago or longer, and he hasn't done anything with it yet, but that when he gets into doing stuff with it, it's going to create a tool that will let people have the sense of interacting with Michael because they can type questions into the AI and the AI will have been programmed with everything Michael's ever said and done about those various topics on the internet show and various lectures he's given, etc. So if you haven't tapped into that yet, if that anything about that is interesting for you or exciting to you, reach out to Jeanie and she can let you know about the status of the project and or if there's something that your particular unique skills might help with. Just saying, there's a lot that goes on, even in just these two shows that not everybody gets to tap into. So if you're interested, check it out.
I didn't understand, this is Sue again, I didn't understand that Michael himself might not be present at those forums or whatever they're ending up being, that people can just get his answers using AI. Is that true?
Yeah, it's the idea of scaling it up. I mean, Michael has said for years he doesn't think he and Jeanie are going to meet 8 billion plus people individually
Yeah,
and hand them the tools.
right.
So this would just be like another layer at which, if this website and the AI thing gets going the way Michael is envisioning it, people will be able to basically interact with the material
Mm-hmm.
um, in a way that wouldn't be possible before AI could integrate all this stuff.
Gosh, that comes full circle to what you were saying at the beginning, having to do with somehow being willing to learn the tools and learn somehow that you can learn that you don't have to be special or something. I'm not articulating that, but I should start from another angle. One of the great things about this show to me is the personal human connection and interaction. I might tap in to find out information from a show like that the way I do when I go on the internet to Google something, some definition or something. Or one time I had a physical problem with a sore leg, so I went on to list all my symptoms in there and have a diagnosis pop up. But talk about being special. The connection person to person among the people on the show and whoever is leading the show, you or Michael or Jeanie, has that element of it has been the biggest healing factor for me, I think, but it's a little bit contaminated because I do feel special. Being on this show, being able to talk on this show, I feel special. Now, is that a bad thing? That's a question. Yeah.
It is not a bad thing. It's just a thing. When it happens, it happens. If you say it's a bad thing, I don't want to do that. Now you're right at the cusp of creating shadow work for yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? If it's
Yeah.
happening, it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good, it's not bad, it's just happening. And if it's happening and it's something that I'm experiencing, that means I'm creating it, at least in part, right? That I'm an
Mm-hmm.
active participant in whatever
Mm-hmm.
I experience.
And it's been, I would say, it has been extremely good.
Yeah. And so you're saying it's good because you're assessing the consequences that you've received as you've
Mm-hmm.
participated in the radio show and applied the tools, etc. So the idea, and this is tricky territory for a lot of people, but the Course in Miracles talks about special relationship as a bad thing, as a negative thing, as something that carries lots of heavy negative consequences.
Mm.
And Michael Rice would talk about the codependent relationship and its
Mm.
problems. And for a number of years, when I was first, being introduced to this work and Michael's great facility with the Course in Miracles, etc., I didn't really get it. And I would have a hard time when people would get upset and they wouldn't want to buy into the teaching about special relationship or whatever. And then eventually, one of my deeper dives, I forget exactly how it went, something just came up and showed me, oh, wait a minute. This is, they're using different words, but they're saying the same thing.
Mm.
So Michael Rice's codependent relationship issue and the difficulties that we create in our lives when we fantasize a codependent relationship is exactly what the Course in Miracles is talking about in its special relationship work. The special relationship in the Course in Miracles means you think someone or something outside of you has to do or be a certain thing in
Mm.
order for you to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And or if those people are not doing that, that's what's causing your unhappiness. So you've literally, the more I dug into it, the more it sounded to me like the Course in Miracles definition for a special relationship is the same as Michael Rice's definition of a codependent relationship.
Mm.
And if you stay with the work and you stay open and you recognize that your tightness and your tension and your angry refutations of whatever you're reading is all coming from inside you, then you
Mm.
can breathe and soften and say, well, let me look to see if there's a different way to look at this or interpret this teaching that is more productive and or more
Mm.
loving. And if you do that enough, I think what you're going to find is great consistency and great power in the message that comes across from Course in Miracles, Michael Rice's work, Way of Mastery, Guy Finley, Diedrich Wolzak, Byron Katie, the list goes on and on.
Mm.
And so it is wonderful that you are participating in this, that you like the energy in this group, that you're blessing this group with your presence. It's wonderful. Oh, isn't that a special relationship? And aren't you violating? No, no.
That's exactly the cusp I'm sitting on.
Yes, well, but
And
look at it this way. Here's the
yeah.
answer to it. No, it's not. If you're having a good, wonderful, loving time, great. Just understand it's not happening to you. You're
Mm.
actively participating in it.
That is true. And
It's
also, it doesn't have to be just for me. This is the little kid in the big family. I've got to be the special one. I've got to get the best stuff. This is beginning to loosen up so that I can say, Celinda can get this too, and Cami can get it, and Kathy can get it, and Sally and Matthew. I see your names all on there. You can all be getting it. I don't have to be the only one getting it. And I
exactly.
can still get it all.
And it's still wonderful. And it's going to be okay even if people don't get it. And it's the judgment thing I want to identify and release my
Mm-hmm.
attachment to.
Yeah.
I will continue to judge. It's like that Gabrielle Bernstein book, the Judgment Detox. I'll continue to judge, and it'll have its negative effects, but it doesn't ruin anything, and I can make a change the
Yeah.
next moment once I become aware that it's my choice to judge something that's creating the upset that I say
Got
I
it.
don't want to feel.
That is so good. Okay, it's 1 o'clock. Gotta go.
Gotta go. Thank you so much for being here. Your questions and comments always deeply appreciated. Thank you, Celinda. And I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false.